This podcast, I sat down with Nathan Outteridge. He's the new driver of the new SailGP team, Artemis. It was awesome to catch up with him to hear what he's been up to since he hasn't been out here racing SailGP and what Artemis means to him. I also picked his brains on how he thinks the final will play out for the 2025 season. Make sure to have a listen. Welcome back to SailGP 101. I'm Lisa Madden, and today I'm joined by our re-returning driver in his new team, Nathan Outteridge with Artemis. Welcome back, Nathan.
Thank you. It's just like the good old days, isn't it?
I know. Our first one-on-one podcast was with you. You were with Team Switzerland at the time. You've also obviously led the Japanese team. You subbed in for New Zealand, Denmark. Am I missing anyone there?
I think that covers it.
You carry a couple of hats.
I'm sick of changing hats.
Artemis is a very special one for you though. How it made me take everyone back to where your Artemis journey began and why it's special to be now returning with them.
Yeah, I guess Artemis was really my start into professional sailing. You know, I was originally doing Olympic sailing like most of the sailors here, and like, you know, you and I did when we were competing at the Rio Olympics together. And then I had this amazing opportunity after the London Olympics where I got asked to join Artemis for the America's Cup there. And for me, that was my first experience into the professional world of sailing. And to go into a team with over 100 people and see the enormity of what an America's Cup team was like, to be embraced into the family, which was the Artemis culture, and to do 2 America's Cup campaigns with them, driving the boat. I got to know Ian Percy, obviously, very well, who was originally the tactician on board, who became the team manager and CEO. And I got to know Torbjørn very well as well. And you know, I have such amazing memories working for Artemis for that best part of like 6-7 years. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to be rejoining the family again here at SailGP.
So Ian he was on the boat with you back in the America's Cup days. He's now the new CEO of the team, and Torbjørn is the owner, someone that has a lot of passion for sailing and also Swedish sailing, which Artemis will be representing. I guess, why is that family so special, that Artemis family?
It's just incredibly unique, the culture that was created there, and particularly during the America's Cup campaign in Bermuda. You know, the whole team relocated to Bermuda. Torbjørn was flying in and out quite regularly. You know, he was very interested in what we're up to, but in a way that was like, I totally respect how you're running the team, how the operations are going, but just know I'm here to support you. How can we help facilitate this team be as good as it can be? And I think, you know, someone like Ian Percy, just the leadership skills he has is incredible, and I learned a lot from him during that campaign. You know, we hear this word, the Artemis family, a lot, and it's more than just a sailing team. It was a family. And I talk about the family of the people who work within the team. Like, you got to know everyone so well, from boat builders, designers, engineers to sailors. Everyone was one big family, and in addition to that, it was the whole support team around that. So our actual families that were there. And you know, we all miss those days, and whenever I'm at a SailGP event or any event that I attend, an America's Cup event, if there's a group of Artemis people there, we all just sort of naturally come together. So, you know, when I met with Torbjørn earlier this year and Ian, and we started discussing this idea of coming to SailGP, you could see everyone's eyes lighting up. Oh, we could get the family back together. And so it's been a lot of time, you know, a lot of work going on in the background in the last few months to make this happen. And you know, to be here in Geneva today to make the announcement of the team is really special for me, and you know, I'm very excited of what lies ahead.
Yes, so exciting. Obviously, you're the only one that's announcing the team at this stage that we're recording this podcast. I'm sure there's lots of conversations going on. You've got no one to announce yet, but you're going to kick things off in Perth next year at the beginning of next season. Are you going to be able to get on the water before then with your team? Have you got that far, or are you just happy to be here right now?
Well, right now I'm happy to be here and happy to know that we can be on the water next year. You know, as you know, I've taken a year off to go and spend some time with my family and go cruising around the world, and I've been watching the SailGP events, you know, when they're on from the Starlink, from the boat with their kids, and they're so confused who to cheer for because they're watching it with me. So we have an awesome sweepstake on which team we're going for, and Jack, my eldest son, he always cheers for GBR because that's Gooby, you know, one of my best mates, and then Charlie cheers for New Zealand all the time, my youngest, because, well, Daddy works for New Zealand, and then sometimes they cheer for Switzerland, and so I'm like, guys, you're going to have a team for next year, and
they got a lot of hats as well on the wall.
They got a lot of hats on the wall. They got a lot of shirts, and they were already, preempting what's coming, and probably one of their favorite hats is the Artemis hat. Oh, here we go.
This is tradition. So the first time I did a podcast, it was freezing cold in Christchurch and we had to warm up. But now we just have a beautiful coffee at Lake Geneva. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, but in terms of how can we prepare for next season, it's an interesting one. Like, we know that the boat's not finished yet. It's still getting completed up in Southampton, right? And the paint job's going on it. They're getting it all ready to get it over to Perth. And we're originally told we'll get some training time and commissioning time in Abu Dhabi. And logistically, it's going to be tough to make that work. But we are now that I'm involved and it's official, we are pushing hard in the background to get some training days. Typically, a new team coming in would get around 20 days of training in the build up to the season. For some reason, it's not coming across to us like that at the moment. But that's okay. Like, the one thing I've learned with SailGP is you expect the unexpected and you take whatever you can get when it comes to training, which means it's really important for us to, select the right people to be involved in the program. So we're looking for some experienced people and, obviously we need to build the Swedish, component of our team as well. And what's interesting right now is as soon as the rumor mill started spreading that it was going to be Artemis and I was going to be involved, my phone just started lighting up. I'm like crossing the Pacific.
Do you have a wing trimmer yet?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm crossing the Pacific on the cruising boat. We're sailing from the Galapagos to the Marquesa Islands. It's 3,000 nautical miles. I'd flick the Starlink on every day and I'm like, I wonder who I'm going to hear from today. And this is months ago before this even happened. So that shows the interest level in our team, which is, for me, amazing to think that there's a lot of people who would like to be a part of the program with us. And then those conversations have been developing. And, as we know, in the background, there's plenty of chat on what's going to happen with the lineups next year. And, we can't say right now where we're at, but, we've had some amazing conversations with some of the best sailors in the league. And hopefully we can get it to come together in the next couple of weeks or months and have a great lineup for Perth.
Well, I know you're not going to tell us anything, but obviously you've sailed with lots of different athletes in this league. There's lots of athletes that have been part of the Artemis family. So, super special that people are ringing you. They just goes to show how much they respect you as an athlete.
It does, and it shows what the Artemis brand is about, and I think there's a lot of respect for what the team put together in the Bermuda Americas Cup. And, I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to bring to SailGP, with Ian Percy as our leader and CEO, and an incredible founder in the team in Torbjörn. I think we're going to be able to put a really strong challenge together. But the question is can we get the people we need, and are we going to get the training time to be competitive at the start of next season? And, I'm very much aware that the fleet's getting better and better and better all the time. You just keep watching the racing and talking to all the sailors that I know, and, to see how far SailGP's grown from season 1 to where we are today. It's quite intimidating to also be coming in and saying, I want to be on the podium straight away. It's a great goal to have, but...
big hill to climb.
Big hill to climb, and I'm also very realistic that you can't just expect to start at the top. We need to do the time to get good.
Yeah, obviously you have a lot of experience, whoever you bring in, but then it's also getting that gel together. And then since you've raced here, we've got new foils, there's a few upgrades.
I've never sailed with a T-foil on one of these boats.
Yeah, so there's a lot to learn still. And on that, obviously not with the foils on the water, but there's also the simulator, which teams have started to use quite a lot. Is that something that you envision being part of your program? Do you see value in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is you've got to use every possible available tool at your disposal to prepare for next season, but also to keep developing between the events. And the simulator is going to be a really important tool for us. I think you can do a lot of things on the simulator, from like crew training and communication practice to just individual skill development. And, hopefully we can have some experienced people on the boat, but we also have a new group of sailors that have probably never stepped foot on an F50 come Perth. So using the simulator for purposes like that are going to be really important. And, it's all about your processes, how your debriefing processes work. So having experience working with multiple different teams, I've got some ideas on how we'd like to put it together, but also it's important that as you bring people on board into the program, you take their experience and their understanding of what will make performance work and try and bring that together. So it might seem like Perth is far away, but we're starting to run out of time to make sure we're ready.
It's coming quick, that's for sure. I guess you kind of touched on it before, but watching SailGP, I mean, there's more boats than we've ever had before. Obviously 13 potentially lining up on a start line in Perth. It's super competitive, points are really close. How much do you actually see how the racing has elevated, I guess, since it all began?
Well, it seems like one thing that's changed is the number of boats, but what hasn't changed is the space to operate in.
Besides the race course.
If anything, the courses are getting smaller. And it was interesting listening at the press conference here earlier this morning about the discussion between splitting to 2 fleets versus keeping it at 13. And, you know, my understanding is that right now we're not meant to race with more than 12 boats. So the intention was to go down to 2 fleets next season. But if we're only bringing 1 boat online for next year,
13's not an even number.
One group's going to have 7 or one group's going to have 6. So there's a lot to be sorted out between now and then. But I feel like, you know, moving forward, it's quite a risky kind of setup having that many boats on the start line. And, you know, from the safety of the athletes and trying to actually bring our race courses closer to the people, we do need to squeeze these courses down. I also like the idea of maybe doing 6 races a day where like one group does 3, the other group does 3. Having watched SailGP a lot over the last
year. More races, the better, right?
I'm like, there's a race, now what are we going to do for 5 minutes? So you fast forward for a bit and you're like, okay, now we're going again. Imagine if it was just back-to-back racing, 6 in a row. Well,
I think Russell's got the dream of 20, 10 and 10, which would be fantastic to be able to just go back-to-back 6 races a day.
I can't even contemplate 20, 10 and 10, but yeah, no, exactly. Like, don't get me wrong, the more boats on the start line, the better the racing is, the more challenging it becomes. But there is a point where it starts to get like... a
little bit hectic.
A little bit hectic, and you know, I've seen some racing this year where they're navigating around other obstacles in the course as well. And you know, we don't want to have, you know, situations like what we saw in Christchurch a few years ago where a boat runs over a mark because there just wasn't space to get around it. So there's that, you know, balance there. But you know, this is all what lies ahead of me. This year I've just been watching and enjoying as a fan, and now I'm starting to think about, okay, as a driver, what do I want to have when we come back into racing? The
racing mindset's coming back, but you're not done yet cruising the world. So you finished... You started cruising last year. Maybe give us an insight into how amazing that's been. Obviously, you've raced at such a high level for so long, but you've been able to sail with your family, teach your boys winging and foiling and things like that. How amazing has that been to be able to just stop and spend time with your family?
It's been probably the most incredible experience I've had in a very long time. Like, as a racer, you're always fully focused on the racing, and so for as long as I can remember, it was just one event to the next, and one campaign to the next. And obviously there's a little bit of stop and start here and there, but you know, we've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my wife and I were just saying, look, we've just spent so much time with Daddy at work, and the boys constantly saying, you know, we need some time. And you know, as last year was sort of developing, it became quite obvious that something wasn't going to come up in SailGP for me. The America's Cup had just finished, and we're like, here's a window. Like, we could actually go and do something productive and just kind of reassess, you know, what we want to do as a family moving forward. So we purchased a cruising catamaran in Europe. We set sail, leaving Europe, you know, November, December last year, and we've done the full world tour. So we left from Gibraltar, we've been to Lanzarote, we went all through all the Caribbean islands, we went through the Panama Canal, which was an amazing experience with, you know, the boys just watching these massive gates open up and us going in behind a ship and going up and through, like experiences that these kids are never going to forget. We then went to the Galapagos Islands and, you know, swimming with all the sea life there, the 3,000 nautical mile sail to the Marquesa Islands, sailing all through the Tuamotus into French Polynesia, Tahiti, Bora Bora. We're currently now in Tonga, and when I fly back to the boat, we're doing the final trip back to New Zealand, which is 1,200 miles, and everyone tells me that I've sailed downwind about as far as I can go.
This is going to be the hardest part.
And this is the hardest part, actually trying to get to Auckland. So it's been an amazing journey, and you know, got the boys out on the foil board behind the dinghy. Jack, who's 6, is now standing up foiling. He's starting to hold onto the wing, and these kids, when we get home, I don't know how.
I have to go to school. You mean I don't get to tow foil?
No, Jack's already said, I'm not going to school. Life's too good to go to school. And I'm like, wow.
He wants to live on the boat forever.
I said, Em, you got a bit on to look after them when I get home to work. But
well, they've been learning physics, I guess. Foils is physics.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, you wake up in the morning and I'm like, what's that sound? And they're like, got the tools taking the foils off. And Charlie's like, I want that tail wing, I want the 180. And Charlie's like, no, I want the 140. And Jack's like, I want this mast on that board. And I'm like, guys, the sun's not up, we can't go yet. But
it's a good problem to have.
It is. And so like next year they'll be on tour with us a lot. They'll come to a lot of these events. And you know, so I think if you can give them that amazing experience cruising the world and going at a slow pace, bringing them on tour and seeing, you know, the fastest boats in the world racing will be, you know, an amazing opportunity for them.
I guess different to you when you were growing up as a 4 or 6 year old, but I imagine when you were a kid growing up on Lake Macquarie, you just wanted to be on the water as well. You weren't in the Marquesas, but...
No, I was Lake Macquarie. I was sailing on a Manly Junior with my dad when I was their age, and started sailing like a Sabo, which is kind of like an Optimus, and it's about the slowest boat you can get in the world. And, you know, it's amazing how things have changed since, you know, my childhood, because, you know, kids are still obviously sailing traditional boats, but there's all these foiling opportunities available now, and just the, like, opportunities that exist for young sailors these days is incredible. And who knows if my boys are going to want to, you know, follow my footsteps and sail and race for a living, or if they just want to do it for a bit of fun. But the fact that there's opportunities that sit there, it's just working out what do they want to do and how can we support them.
Oh, it's amazing that you were able to take time and give them that opportunity. And as you said, as a professional sailor, you don't get those windows very often. And now you're here back with SailGP. But we're kicking things off in Perth. So you're obviously representing Sweden. Perth's an Australian event for you to kick things off. You've actually done quite a bit of sailing in Perth. What can we expect in Fremantle?
I think the last time I was in Fremantle racing was the Olympic World Championships, you know, the combined World Championships ahead of the London Olympics. So, you know, I was sailing with Goobs in the 49 at the time. We had, you know, a lot of success there. We won the Worlds there that year, and the sailing conditions are incredible. You know, right off Fremantle, we get the Fremantle Doctor, as they call it, in Perth, where the breeze just pumps in every afternoon. Our medal race there that day in the exact area where we're going to race was 20 knots and big waves, and it was challenging in a 49er, and I'm just trying to work out the calibration. Are the waves
high enough
for the foils, or are they a little bit too big and we're going to get lots of crashes? So all I can hope is we get enough training days there to just get a really good grasp of how the conditions are. But, you know, Perth's an amazing venue, and it's amazing that we're heading over to Western Australia and doing an event to start the season.
Yeah, and then we obviously come to Sydney and then Auckland, which is your new hometown. I guess from the beginning of SailGP, you were here with the Japanese team. I think we had 5 events at the time there. For you, I mean, how cool is this league to be a part of as a sailor?
It's just grown so much from the very beginning. I remember when we were commissioning the boats in New Zealand up at Marsden Cove, and we were out there sailing and just trying to get these things to work, right? You know, because they're incredible, complicated boats. And then in season 1, you know, we thought we were doing incredible things, going around the world, going to 5 events. And like, how is that actually possible? Because originally these boats weren't really built for transporting around the world. And it's amazing now. Last weekend we were in Saint-Tropez, and here we are in Geneva. So the fact that a boat can be packed up, moved, and come again to another place, you're starting to see what's actually possible and why, you know, we can now put 13 events on in a calendar year around the entire world. You know, the boats are also improving all the time, you know, with the T-foils being added to it, and there's more and more systems going on in the background. And it's pretty interesting, having only been here for 2 days and not been around all season, just chatting to people that I know. They're like, you need to come to the tech site because the boats are quite different to what they were. And you start to feel a little bit old. Like, I keep remembering early days, season 1.
You're
and
like,
now
back in my day.
I'm like, back in my day when there used to only be 6 boats and there was 5 events, and we used to get 2 weeks of training before every event.
And they're like, nope, you've got 30 minutes before the start of
yeah, I'm
season.
just like, what am I really signing myself up for here? But it's going to be fun, and it's just amazing to see the growth that's happened here, and, you know, the level of the racing, the talent of the sailors that are here. Yeah, it's going to be really cool to be back on the start line.
And you probably can't tell us the answer to that yet, but what about an event in Sweden? How would that go down?
I'm sure it's on the cards. I think it'd be great. You want to make sure you're there in summer, not winter. But yeah, we'd love to have an event in Sweden, and you know, it's just early days for us as a team right now. We've got to get the team established. We've got to get the performance there and get us, you know, becoming competitive. But I'm sure there'll be work going on in the background over the next year to see if we can bring an event to Sweden.
Well, You're sitting on the sidelines. We actually commentated together back when you didn't have a drive as well. So you've got really good insights to this. So we've got pretty much a 4-horse race now into the race to Abu Dhabi. Obviously, each team has sort of a different kind of wheelhouse. What's your take on the top 4 teams that we've got at the moment, and who do you think is going to take it?
It's really interesting. Like the top 4 teams are very strong in their own right. Australia have been so dominant for so long. The Spanish, had a blinder last year in the final and took the season final. The Kiwis have obviously been really consistent throughout, the last 3 years since they've been involved, and have really good track record in the Middle East as well. And GBR have been sailing out of the skin this year. It was really impressive to see how well Dylan's taken to this fleet. He did season 1, he missed out a lot of seasons, and he's come in and doing an incredible job. So, those 4 teams definitely deserve to be at the top. When you look ahead to the season final in Abu Dhabi, it's pretty hard, if I'm honest, to go past the Kiwis right now. Their success rate.
Yeah, they've won many events in the Middle East.
They've won a lot. They won at the start of this year. Didn't they win something at the end of last year?
2 last year, both of them last year.
So if you look at who's good in the light airs in the Middle East, you'd have to think that the Kiwis are in a strong position, but they do need to make the final, and they're obviously leading at the moment, so they're in the gun seat. But let's see how it all plays out when they get to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, anything can happen. Interesting on that is obviously Leo, who's their new flight controller this year, was somebody that you trained up. So when you had the Japanese team, you were really about fostering talent and obviously getting Leo up to scratch there, which is probably a job that you have now with Artemis. Taking you back to those Japanese days, you were in 2 finals, you missed out. The black foils, they missed out last year. I guess, how hard is it to have this whole season surmount to this pressure of just this one race? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it just, it is what it is?
I think it is what it is at SailGP. Like, as sailors growing up, sailing like Olympic classes and most point scoring systems, it's all about consistency. You just want to do as well as you can, as often as you can, and you don't want to have any bad races, and you just want to be consistent. And that really works to get you into a final at SailGP. But to actually win a final takes a very different mentality. And I think the teams that get more opportunities to be in finals throughout the season get to try different strategies to make it work. And I was actually watching probably an interview you did when on the flight up here. I was on the Emirates flight on the way up here and watching one of the documentaries that you guys do.
Racing on the Edge.
Racing on the Edge. And you were talking about the mentality of these sailors. And Tom had a comment. He said, I know in that final last season that we're going to go at the Kiwis and the Kiwis are going to go at us. And that left the door completely wide open for Spain, who ended up winning the start and winning the race. And so, interesting that Tom had that thought process, but just kind of thought if they could beat Pete, they would win. I think now the depth has changed a lot, and anyone in that final can win. We've seen that. So I think, the way that these teams approach it now is you're consistent throughout the weekend or throughout a season, and then you just got to put it all on the line in the final. And it'll be interesting to see what is putting it on the line in a final in Abu Dhabi going to look like if it's light conditions. Because in San Fran, it was like, get to the back of the box and send it as hard as you can at the start line and try and do 100 Ks at the gun.
More tactical game in Abu Dhabi.
I think it's going to be a more tactical game. It's going to be more of a finesse race. But having said that, there also could be some wind there because, it's not always light. So, yeah, looking forward to being there.
You're going to tune into that one.
Yeah, I'll be watching that one.
Well, Nath, a little bit of unfinished business with the Japanese team. I guess a little bit of unfinished business with Artemis. We're so excited to have you back next season. It's going to be awesome. And we'll see you in Perth. Yeah,
thanks. Yeah, that's a good statement. There's a lot of unfinished business. I love the competition in SailGP. And I can't wait to be in Perth with the Artemis SailGP team and showing the world what we've been able to put together, and hopefully starting from a really good position. Awesome. Thank you so much for chatting, Nath. Thank you for tuning in to One on One. I'll be back next time with another athlete. We'll catch you then.